saved or being saved, it is the power of God. Now, I always bring it out this way, that in verse 17, Paul is talking about preaching the gospel, and then in verse 18, he's talking about preaching the cross. Now, when Paul was at his home when he penned this, when he wrote verse 17, did he just finish verse 17? As soon as he finished that verse, before he could start verse 18, his doorbell rang. He went and answered the door. It was a JW, a Jehovah's Witness. And he starts witnessing to the JW for a while, just having a good time talking to him. And when he got done, he came back and sat down and got ready to write, but he forgot what he was talking about. He decided, I think I'll talk about the cross now. He didn't do that, did he? I believe the Holy Spirit wants us to see in verses 17 and 18, those two verses, that preaching the gospel is synonymous with preaching the cross. And the cross is what the mystery is all about, isn't it? There is no mystery without the cross. See, if you're preaching the gospel, then you're going to be preaching the cross. Now, a lot of people will say they preach the gospel, but they don't. A lot of people and a lot of ministers out there, they preach human ideologies. They preach psychology and psychiatry. They preach just success motivational seminars. They preach why they don't like the pastor down the road. They preach why they don't like the televangelist, on television. But a lot of them are not preaching the gospel. Because if you're preaching the gospel, you'll be preaching the cross. It's just that clear. You're going to preach the cross. So that's one way you can tell if somebody's preaching the gospel. It's got to have something in there about the cross. That is about Jesus' death and resurrection, because that's what the gospel is all about. Now, I wrote in your notes, if you look at that, under point B, I said this: the death of Jesus was not just the death of a martyr, but the revelation of the eternal heart of God. And I said the cross is God's final word to humanity. Think about that. The cross is God's final word to humanity. And I wrote in here, God is saying nothing contrary to the cross. God's saying nothing contrary to the cross. See, God finished everything at Calvary. Everything's finished and done. We're always trying to get God. We like to use this phrase, we're just going to come together and pray all night, or we're going to fast the first 30 days of the new year. But why? We're believing God to move. I know what you mean by that. In one sense, you mean we're believing God to manifest His power and His love and His presence and to do things for people. But I don't really like that phrase. We're believing God to move. Because, see, God's already finished moving. God did all the moving He's going to ever do. He did all His moving 2,000 years ago when Jesus